Hey, Dr. Greer. First off, I just want to thank you for coming and being on the show. So I know you're a busy man.
My pleasure.
What worries me about some of the things you're saying to me is I've read many of Dr. Robert Hare's books on psychopaths, and he indicates that psychopaths love an unsupervised environment so they can do whatever they want.
Correct.
And if you're in a top secret, unacknowledged program, that's a very attractive thing to a psychopathic mind.
Yes, and you've hit the nail on the head in the sense that there is a tendency in this day and age for us all to be passive and want to say, it's like the little red hen, you know, that little book. Everybody else, have someone else do it. No, everyone listening to this needs to understand you are responsible, not you, but all of us together are responsible for disclosure, for funding and supporting zero-point energy systems, for making contact with these civilizations. You don't need, if you want permission, I will give you permission. You have permission to make contact with these civilizations on behalf of the human race. You don't need the head of Army Intelligence to say, yes, you can, or the president. You're a child of Earth and you can do this, and this is what people have to do. So I think it's more about us taking responsibility for ourselves, our planet, and our future, and not look to the fact that Big Brother somewhere is going to do this for us, because that kind of dependency is a trap. We have to empower ourselves to do this. And the people who are in these systems, if they were to break out and do it abruptly themselves, aside from the fact it'd be shocking, would probably end up getting them killed. But I think also the way we respond to this information is a metric, a measure of if we're ready. And are we going to run off like, you know, the sky is falling while our heads are chopped off, fear, or are we going to be intelligent, discerning, forward-looking, and do something good with this? And I think that's really in the hands of every man, woman, and child on the planet. So I think the responsibility, ironically, yes, our leaders and these very powerful interests do have a lot of responsibility. But I agree with you. With each new administration or new leader in another country, oh, these are the people who do disclose. And I've been saying for 20 years, I mean, remember the 2001 Disclosure Project Press Club event, I did because I had already decided and concluded that the governments of the world won't do it unless we do it first. So if the people lead, the leaders will follow. So we, the people, have to provide the impetus, the leadership, the vision. And I think that is a message of empowerment. It sort of scares people because people would rather sit in front of their television looking at TV and eating Cheetos. But in reality, this is a call for people to pick up this responsibility themselves. And operations that are supportive of this exist, and there are operations that are very not supportive. And the counterintelligence operations that are going to try to hijack disclosure, we know what that agenda is. It's exactly what Wernher von Braun said when he said they're going to try to create an alien threat. But I think that if we, the people, get enough information and we do things that are enlightened, positive, progressive, and come together and work together to do this, then it actually wouldn't be very difficult to do. But it's hard. You're not going to have one person do that. I'm certainly not. I mean, when I started this effort, I had children the ages of all my grandchildren. I have 8 grandchildren. So I've seen this whole generational process happen. And so what I see is that you could sit around from now till the biosphere collapses waiting for the oligarchs and elites to get out of their own way and do this. Let's not do that. Let's do this ourselves.
So if somebody watching this program and they're an inventor or an engineer and they've invented a zero-point energy device, what should they do? I mean, they're going to get killed if they try to make a company to sell the thing. What should they do? How can we force feed
Actually,
this?
there is a way to disclose those technologies, and I want to briefly go through that. I've been involved since 1991 in investigating those systems. To my understanding, and everyone listening, take this under advisement, because I know how these programs operate that have suppressed these technologies. The technology has to be first legitimate, but let's start at the foundation that there are technologies out there that are self-running systems that are 0 point or what have you. They have to be reproducible, and they have to be scientifically provable. It's the sine qua non of science, reproducibility. Most inventors won't allow that because they're too paranoid, and they keep it secret. Ironically, the same thing that's killing the planet with this sort of excessive secrecy is also killing all the inventors. They buy into the paradigm of intellectual property, patents, and secrecy. That is the Achilles heel of it, not if you're inventing a software program or another iPhone, because those really aren't important. This sort of technology is absolutely critical. And because of its criticality and the fact that there are compelling interests that want to keep it in a box, you have to handle it strategically in a very different way. And that means it has to be massively disclosed. Now, I would do that. If someone contacts me at my website or through you, and they have something, first of all, it's going to be put up or shut up. I'm a very hard-nosed scientist. If it is legitimate, we would open source it. And open sourcing means there would be no IP around it, no patent around it. If the inventor group needs to be compensated, I have people in my network of very high net worth where they can be taken care of. So they'll be taken care of. But then they need to either stand aside for a little while this gets massively disclosed. And it needs to be massively disclosed so that at least 1 or 2 billion people simultaneously know that it exists, and the formula, that the actual plans and the technology are dispersed over the internet through a multi-centered release, which we are also set up to do, and it can't be suppressed. Now, the reason for that is that everyone who's tried to do it the traditional venture capital, intellectual property, let's start a company, they all get intercepted and taken down. It's not a matter of if they will, it's just when. And some are allowed to go a certain distance, and when they begin to emerge, then they're decapitated or they're bought out. So the financial trap is, let's say that you have someone comes along and you have a technology like that, and a well-meaning person puts $50 million into it to develop it further. Well, this cabal can then buy them out for $5 billion. If the person is mainly interested in money, these are the guys who have the printing presses. All right, they create money out of thin air, and are also, by the way, running all the drug money. So there's no limit to the money they have to sort of intercept these technologies. So you have to have qualified people to support this who care about the planet and the future of the human race, and not mammon, not money, not the god of money. You also have to have a strategy that frustrates the system. The system that's out there has deliberately been designed so that through the patent system or the intellectual property system or the venture capital system, that any of those technologies get stalled in a series of speed bumps, where then they're in sort of in a kill box where you can then take them out. And that's what's happened for 100 years. So this is a thing where people have not learned the historical lesson since the time of Tesla of how to get these technologies out. Because it's understandable that people who would invent and spend a lot of their money and resources developing this would want to be compensated. Sure. And I understand that. But you can be compensated, and you can do well by doing good. And there has to be a consciousness that this is something that has to be handled where you don't fall. The strategy is more important than the technology. What do I mean by that?
I agree.
So you can have the best technology in the world, a solid state 0 point system. I know these exist, no moving parts. And you could have $100 million behind it. But if you don't understand the milieu, the environment you're operating in, where all the landmines are, and you fall into any of these dozens of traps that are already preset, that technology is never going to benefit the Earth. So I have developed a very specific strategy for this. It's very unconventional. It flies in the face of everything every wealthy businessman wants to do and every inventor wants to do, and that's a problem, and I understand that. But it's an informed decision that I've made based on some very hard, I've put almost $1 million of my own resources into trying to track down these systems, and every single one that hasn't been fraudulent have made the decision to go the moneyed route and the corporate route, and they vanish. They go into the black pit of Calcutta. So I would say, well, let's not keep making that same mistake. Let's get the technology, get some, I don't want to mention the names here, but they're names everyone listening would know, who would then support it, but have it then massively disclosed. Even if CNN won't cover it, it'll be on a stage with 100 million people seeing it. There are strategies that we have to do it, and they're very unconventional. It's very aggressive. I'm someone who's a very forward-leaning person when I need to get moving. But it can't be done the way most people think of. And so if there is someone out there who has one of these technologies that's operational, they need to contact us, and we need to sit down and explain why the strategy we have is frankly the only one that'll work. The others have all been tried for 100 years and they haven't worked. This one would work even though it's extremely aggressive. And by aggressive I mean it would be a massive multi-centered data dump of the technology with a massive disclosure and PR effort involving some of the really luminaries of the planet who can bring a spotlight to it. And we got those lined up. I can hit a button and that happens. The question is, will an inventor group go along with that? Because then they feel, well, it's like the Lord, my precious with the Lord of the Rings. You know, they're trying to hold on to this. If you hold on to it, it's going to take you down to the bottom of the ocean like the Titanic. I think you have to open it up, like GitHub, you know, open source it. You can still do incredibly well. Let me say something here. In order to, let's call this a rescue mission for the planet technologically, you need 1,000 companies the size of Apple to do the infrastructure transformation of every car, home, business, factory, everything. With 7.5 billion people.
It would be enormous.
Enormous. So don't worry about, is there going to be enough money? Everyone's trying to think, you know, it's this proprietary paranoia.
That's old school thinking.
And it's old school thinking.
Yeah.
That old school thinking is going to get us all killed.
It is.
So, and I think that there is a strategy where if you look at all the applications of this sort of technology, this first phase is massive disclosure, open source. The second phase, where the whole world knows this is possible, and it's not fictitious, and it's been proven scientifically, and the technology is out there for anyone to replicate, then you get into what are called specific applications. Those can be patented, because then the genie's out of the bottle. Then you can have one that will run your computer, another that'll run your heat pump, another one will run the whole house, another one that'll do this, run a Tesla car without plugging it in. There are all kinds of, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of both vertical and horizontal applications, all of which, so you're talking about a technological boom that would make Silicon Valley look like nothing, all right? So don't worry about that at the front end. The front end, you need to worry about the security and the strategic thinking behind the technology. And if you handle it correctly, you can get it out. If you don't handle it correctly, it will get you killed. So, and unfortunately, I've worked with people who are no longer with us because they did not take this advice. Listen very carefully. They did not take this advice, and they have, and recently, have been terminated. And so I think we have to figure out how to fix this. And we're not going to do it by making the same mistakes over and over. So that's what I would recommend. And if you don't want to take my advice, I understand. People say, well, what the hell does he know? And that's fine. You should take this under advisement if you have this technology.
Why doesn't the ETs help us with this?
Why don't the ETs just do it? Well, you know, that's a great question. I get probably asked that at every single presentation I do, and it's a valid question. But I always tell people, they are aware of our situation. If they were to intervene, short of a worst case scenario, and what do I mean by that? I mean, if we were to go to DEFCON 1 or have a biosphere collapse, yes, there'll be a massive intervention. But the way things are right now, for other civilizations to directly intervene and just do it for us would be like us invading Afghanistan, expecting warlords that are based in a feudal medieval mindset to adopt Jeffersonian democracy. A civilization isn't going to evolve by having something imposed from outside. And so they understand this. If I understand it with my limited intelligence, I can tell you these civilizations and some of these species have IQs 400 or 500 that we've had contact with. 200 is really high on planet Earth. So
very rare.
Yeah. Well, but my point is this. They understand that. They can look at how civilizations evolve. Others have gone this way before. And I think that it's a mistake to think that one of the problems we get into, and people get into what I call cosmic codependency. And they either want to turn them into, these ETs, into the boogeyman to hate and fight, or saviors that are going to come down in a flying saucer and rescue us. I would say that both are incorrect. I think these civilizations see us as having the potential to do this ourselves, that we need to try to do this ourselves. We need to create initiatives. We need to learn. Earth is, I call it schoolhouse Earth. We're on this beautiful planet moving through space where we are to learn and to evolve. There's no learning and evolving if some force from outside forced it. So there's a difference between force and power. There was a book called Power versus Force. But I think that this is where there is a great wisdom in the level of restraint. Now, a lot of people get frustrated and they say, oh, why don't they just come and fix this? Why don't they just kill the cabal? Why don't they? I say, no, we're the children of Earth. We're responsible for this planet. We're responsible for our future. Now, they're there to understand and to assist as we evolve. But we have to be the lead effort, humans, we, the children of Earth, because then we will evolve both consciously, intellectually, emotionally, socially, politically, as we organically should. Where that will never happen. It's like if I've raised 4 children and now we have 8 grandchildren. If every time your child started to stumble when he was a toddler, you would stop him, he would never learn to walk. You're going to fall down. You're going to bruise your knee. You're going to fall off your bicycle. So we're at that stage as a civilization. But we need to learn to walk before we levitate. And we'll be levitating soon. But
sounds fun.
Yeah, and it's fun. I've had a couple of levitation experiences in my meditative experiences. But I think we really need to understand that these other civilizations will join in to the extent that we have evolved to the level to be cooperative as opposed to adversaries. The official face that they're seeing, unfortunately, is very militaristic and has been since Roswell. We, the people, need to show a different face to them. What's the other side of humanity? There's the aggressive militaristic face. What happened if millions of people started going out to make contact who had an enlightened, peaceful, spirit warrior, let's call it, approach to this?
I like that.
Okay? That's what have been recommending since 1990. So that would indicate to these civilizations that we're ready for further contact, open contact. And also in terms of these large problems that we have geopolitically and technologically, environmentally, I will tell you that these civilizations are deeply concerned about it. There is a part of their mission to this planet that involves sampling water, plants, the genetic materials of the planet to see how much degradation is happening, how quickly, because they're able to extrapolate out decades and centuries. And we've reached criticality in terms of the damage to the genome of the planet, the biosphere, and they know it, the intelligence community knows it, most people listening on this network, Gaia, know it. But for something to happen that transforms the situation to be forced from outside, the other trap, and this is the big one, if that were to happen, the demagogues and the alienists, the people who are the racists, would say, see, we're being invaded. It's a lose-lose proposition for them to do it overtly. Because if they were to do anything too forcefully, that'd be proof of an alien invasion. So I think we have to be in charge of disclosure. We have to be in charge of releasing these technologies. And we have to be also, we the people, in charge of an interplanetary peaceful diplomatic initiative, which is really how I started, why I got involved with all this. It wasn't disclosure. It's creating conscious people who understood the nature of the cosmos and the conscious universe within us. And there's
I think we need the maturation of the human race. We need to gain some wisdom. I think that's
we have the wisdom. We just have to own it.
Yes.
Okay. All the knowledge and all the wisdom we need to make this leap into a new civilization exists today. Right. All the technologies we need to have a sustainable, high-tech civilization we have today. It's all there. The missing link is the courage, the integrity, the vision to do it. And that's going to be manifested by the man on the street and all of us, probably much sooner than the folks I rub elbows with at the CIA or in the political sphere in Washington or London or anywhere else. So I have a great deal of faith in the people. And I think that's why the people have to really be in charge of this. There are people who are very supportive of this disclosure happening. The problem is moral support and taking dispositive action are two different things. And I think that the courage and integrity and willing to take the hit to your reputation.
And maybe your pension?
Look at the things that are said about me. There aren't a lot of people who, it's one thing if you, whatever, but there aren't a lot of folks who give up their professional career or their political career. And so, to give you one little vignette, I had a meeting for about 11 hours with one of the deputy directors of the National Science Foundation and one of the 5 directors of NASA some years ago. And they were very, very supportive and interested in this. And they were dealing specifically with climate change and the problems with the biosphere. And the one was in charge of all the satellite imaging of the biosphere. And she told me back then that if the public knew how much trouble we were in, there'd be widespread panic. But I said, well, will you help us? And they said, no, this whole subject is too controversial and dangerous. It'd be the end of our careers. So I thought to myself, my career is here. The future of the human race and the planet is here. And so they choose their careerism. So at a certain point, people have to make a decision. This was the very hard decision I had to make a few years ago about my own career. Will I stay as an emergency doctor and have a comfortable upper middle class life doing this and that and the esteem of people for doing what I'm doing, or become, as Lawrence Rockefeller told me I would be, sort of the court jester and made fun of and demeaned and defamed. But, I made the decision, I don't really care, what other people think. I care about what the right thing is to do. But that's very hard to find in the upper echelons of these bureaucracies, government, and corporations. This is why I keep returning to the fact that, yes, there are a lot of people following disclosure, a lot of people supportive, but they don't want to lead it. Remember my story about Lawrence Rockefeller making his fingers like this, talking about the flock of geese?
Not even he wanted to lead it.
He was towards the end of his life, and he wanted to be way back here. He didn't want to be up here. So I think the people need to take this leadership. The people need to do this. And I think the more that we empower ourselves and get out of this mindset that someone's going to do it for us, the better off we're going to be. It's time for us to come together as a planet, as a people. I hope Gaia can be instrumental in this in the future, to organize a global movement to see that happen. Because really very quickly, this planet could be taken from the path it's on into a path of enlightenment and sustainability that'd be just amazingly beautiful. We wouldn't even recognize it in 20 years.
I agree.
Yeah.